Happy May Day. It's Friday, May 1st. I'm Paul Hukalak.
And I'm Lisa Rufianja, and this is TV7.ca News. Hey, Paul. Geez, I missed your face.
Yeah, my COVID-19 Grizzly Adams pandemic face.
I'll take it. Today, we talk about how COVID-19 is affecting local businesses. The RCMP stumble upon a potentially explosive situation, and Karen Armstrong has some advice for couples struggling with spending so much time with their spouse. All that and more, but first.
Well, everybody, take a breath. The provincial government has finally announced some restrictions will start being lifted starting on Monday. And that's good news, of course, for all of us. However, for some small businesses, this news might be coming a little too late. Now, May 1st represents the second rent payment due for businesses that have been mandated to shut down. The federal government did announce a program to help small businesses. However, not all businesses qualify. For those who do, need the landlord's cooperation to participate in this program.
Now, for the owner of the Ripple Effect, a local St. Albert-based wellness center, the Canadian Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program is not an option.
The Emergency Rent Fund, yes. So CECRA was announced by Justin Trudeau last Thursday, and it on the very surface sounded like it was going to be our answer to our prayer, to be honest. It looked like it was going to be a 75% rent reduction, 50% coming from the government as a loan to landlords who would chip in 25% and then offer the rent to us as small business owners at 25%, which was going to help. There's no question at all that when there's zero income coming in, 75% rent reduction should help businesses. What wasn't announced, and you kind of have to dig into it a little bit, is that it's completely optional for landlords. So landlords can choose to do it or not. They can choose to help out. They can choose to not help out. My personal landlord has been absolutely not interested in working on a deal before this, and I was looking to have, you know, deferred payments or postponed payments, or going to actually to my force majeure clause in my contract that exists, but they weren't willing to work with me. So I personally don't feel very confident that they're going to work with me in this CECRA either. So still stuck at zero.
Businesses throughout our city are facing different situations. Some are still operating at a reduced capacity, and some have landlords who have deferred their rent payments. But all have fixed monthly expenses that can't be avoided, and more often than not are struggling to stay afloat.
Business is not as usual. The landlords have said business as usual, rent is due on the 1st. And we paid for April, and I don't know how we'll ever pay for May because we've had zero income. So, you know, zero income, wages are not there for owners. They're not there for any staff. Of course, they can do their CEBA, they can do their CERB applications that way. But we still have rent, we still have utilities, we have insurance, there's security, there's phone, there's internet, there's all of those things that still exist. And so those don't go away. And I don't know that I'm looking for them to go away completely. As a business owner, it's a risk I take. I get that. But at the same breath, this was unprecedented. It was unexpected. And the banks aren't showing up for support. The insurance companies say, sorry, business interruption insurance doesn't count here because it's not a damaged premises. My rep actually said to me, well, if COVID-19 could cause an explosion or a flood, we'll cover you. But at this point, sorry, we can't do anything. And, you know, so when all of those different levels of support that we think are there aren't there for us in this type of situation, we are left really stranded and with the really real risk of closing our doors.
The gravity of the situation is starting to be realized by many local small business owners. And incurring monthly expenses with no income is not sustainable.
And we're finding ourselves as we go through this process of talking to other businesses and seeing what the governments are allowing us to apply for and so forth, that we're falling through lots of cracks. And it's industry-based, but it's also small business-based. And I think that's just kind of what I'm really ready to show people, is that there's just I keep getting people who say, oh, must be nice to be getting so much government support. And I'm like, nothing. Zero's coming to us at this point. So it's time for people to realize that not every business is going to be saved by what's showing up.
Now, even with the restriction lifting, our local small businesses are still in trouble. The hole the last couple of months put them in will be difficult to climb out of, especially with the mandated capacity restrictions that will surely be placed upon their reopening. Now, it's important now more than ever that we support our friends, neighbors, families, and our community by shopping local.
And Crystal Lucier is back with some important COVID-19 financial updates.
I want money.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, guys. I hope that everybody's well. This morning, we're going to chat a little bit about business options. There has been some concern around how certain programs work, and there are some cracks that people are falling through, as you've heard. And it's a bit of a concern for small business owners, especially because it's important for our economy to get back going with a new phased reintroduction into our new normal. So the first thing that we want to discuss is the CECRA, which is the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program, which you just heard about. There are some people that are falling through the cracks. The program is now being changed a little bit. We've heard some insight. Previously, to qualify, your commercial landlord had to have a mortgage on the property, and that now is going to be changed. The government has come out with a notice for us that says that property owners that do not have a mortgage will have an alternative mechanism for implementing the program, but that information is not available and has not been outlined as of yet. Application for the program is not currently in effect, but does have to be made before August 31st, and it is specifically for the months of April, May, and June. The way that this program works is that if you are a commercial tenant that has less than $50,000 worth of rent in a month, you can ask your landlord to make application on your behalf to give you rent relief. The problem with this is that not all landlords are mandated to go ahead and make this application. So if they choose not to utilize the program, the expectation is that they're working with you to reduce your rent or make it affordable for you, but they don't necessarily have to go through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation to apply for the CECRA for small businesses. This, as you've heard, is leaving people falling between the cracks, unable to pay commercial rent, and not looking forward to what's going to happen when things return back to the quote unquote new normal. Again, you have to work with your landlord because they are the ones that have to make application to this program. And again, previously to apply for this commercial rent property from CMHC, your landlord would have to make that application requesting that 75% of tenants' rent be reimbursed by the government for this program. However, there are many landlords that are now saying, hey, I don't have a mortgage on my property. I'm not willing to work with you on this. I don't understand personally why somebody would not apply for this to help their tenants, because they're just going to be cleaning out commercial buildings. This is not affordable for small businesses, and currently everybody's been impacted by the economic changes, and we need to work together to make sure that businesses survive and thrive in the months after the phased reintroduction. The other opportunities that are available for small businesses, and again, not for everybody, and there is some miscommunication and some murky clarity on some of these programs, it's important, and I encourage you to speak to your professional or somebody locally that can help walk you through these programs, because some of them are quite complex. One of the programs that's a little bit more straightforward is the 10% wage subsidy program, the temporary wage subsidy. Now, with this 10% wage subsidy, you mandate this yourself. So you manage this yourself. There's no application process. You don't need to get approval from anyone to utilize this. What you're doing is you're taking 10% of the total wages that you're paying your employees, up to $1,375 for each eligible employee, up to $25,000 maximum per employer. You just take 10% of your total wages paid in a period, and you reduce your federal and provincial taxes that you're remitting to the government on your remittance form. So the PD7A form that you utilize for payroll to remit money to the government on the 15th of the following month after payroll is issued, you just reduce that federal and provincial tax amount by 10% of your total payroll wages paid, the gross amount. Now with that, please remember that you can only deduct up to the maximum for employee per employee, but you can also only deduct up to the maximum of the tax remittance portion, because you cannot deduct the CPP and EI portion. You have to pay those amounts in full. This is only applicable for the tax portion of the payroll remittance. The other thing that's come available is the wage subsidy program, so the CEWS. Now, with the wage subsidy program, you have to ensure that you have a reduction in revenue. So for March 15th to April 11th, if your revenue has been reduced by 15% or more, and then from April 12th to May 9th, more than 30%, or May 10th to June 6th, again, 30% or more. And if you have had a reduction in revenues of those amounts, you can then make application to have a wage subsidy implemented. The wage subsidy caps out at 75%. The expectation is that as an employer, you will attempt to do your best to pay the additional 25%. This can be retroactive. So if you've laid off staff and you want to bring them back, you can retroactively pay from March 15th forward to ensure that those wages are paid to your employees. Now, keep in mind that if they've been receiving the CERB, so the CERB, Emergency Response Benefit, anybody that is going back to work and getting wages paid that's also receiving CERB has to repay those funds. It's your responsibility to contact the CERB program and let them know that you've gone back to work and repay those funds back to the CERB program. And they're encouraging everybody to be very, very diligent in ensuring that you're not taking money that you're not qualified for, even if it's accidentally paid to you, or if you've received it and then you go back to work and you no longer qualify. It's your responsibility to make sure that those funds are paid back, or that you've advised the program that you're in that you're no longer qualifying to receive those monies. Don't take advantage of this program if it's not accessible to you. If you do not qualify, do not try to dupe the government or dupe the program. These programs are put in place for people that require them to be able to put food on their table. And rest assured, the government is going to do reviews and audits once we've gotten through this, and they have the manpower to be able to go through and review the programs. So make sure that you're doing your due diligence to ensure that you understand what you qualify for, what you're applying for, and that you are still qualifying for those monies when you're receiving them. Just because they're making a deposit into your account does not necessarily mean that you still qualify for those funds if you've not notified them that you've gone back to work or that you're receiving funds from a different program. The last program that I want to touch on, because it's not been out in mainstream media, is the Métis Nation of Alberta has now put out a program for child subsidy and for rent subsidy to assist Métis persons, registered or non-registered. So if you have family history, but you have not received your certification to become part of the Métis Nation of Alberta, you can still try to prove that you are part of a family tie to the Métis Nation and still qualify for these programs. Each family that is Métis or can prove that they are Métis can receive $500 per child under the age of 18 to help subsidize the cost of schooling at home. So if you need any materials, if you require a new Chromebook, or you need help paying your internet so that your children can do online schooling, you can receive $500 a month per child up to 3 months. The rental subsidy is very similar. If you find yourself in a situation where you're not working or your income has reduced drastically, you can let the Métis Nation of Alberta know, and they will offer you $1,000 a month up to 3 months for rental subsidy. That rental subsidy is paid directly to your landlord. So it goes into the pocket of your landlord, and it's then your responsibility to pay the difference between the rental subsidy and what your regular rent is. If your rent is less than $1,000 a month, the expectation is that the landlord will carry forward any credits so that it extends beyond the 3 months that they're intending to pay. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of clarity. Again, some of these calculations are quite complex. Don't be afraid to reach out to your local professional to discuss the options that are available to you. We're all in this together. Please stay home, stay safe. I'm Crystal Lucier with Preferred Tax Solutions, and this is TV7.ca.
I want money.
On April 8th at approximately 8 p.m., a St. Albert RCMP member was patrolling on Poundmaker Road and came across a male walking away from a vehicle that had its four-way flashers on. The vehicle matched a description of an erratic driving complaint received earlier that evening. The RCMP member approached the vehicle to obtain the license plate number, which was covered in mud, and a female was observed in the back seat. Both the female and the male were detained for investigation as the member believed the vehicle to be stolen.
During the course of the investigation, St. Albert RCMP determined the vehicle was taken without the owner's consent and recovered a firearm, a machete, and 2 Molotov cocktails. Drugs and paraphernalia were also recovered along with the weapons.
A 21-year-old female and a 22-year-old male were charged with a number of offenses, including possession of an explosive substance for an unlawful purpose.
Both individuals were released from custody, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic and court dates being temporarily suspended, the female and male will both appear in St. Albert Provincial Court at dates yet to be determined.
Now, if anyone has information regarding this or any other crime, as always, you're asked to contact the St. Albert RCMP Detachment at 780-458-7700.
And some of us are spending our newly found home time cleaning up and decluttering. Of course, weekly, here's Stephanie Cordova with Cut the Clutter.
I recently had a question about how to sort pictures when it's an overwhelming amount or too emotional to tackle. The poster got a headache every time she started going through her pictures. The method of sorting pictures I'm going to talk about today is when you have a bunch of pictures loose in a box with very or little no organization. When organizing photos that are loose in a box, you'll need some envelopes and a pencil to start. Start with sorting 10 photos at a time. Celebrate that as a huge win. Close up your picture box and be done for the day. Overcoming the overwhelm mental block means accomplishing just a little bit at a time. If you feel great about your results, determine to tackle a bit more the next day, but it is important to bite off only a small chunk at first. Then let the momentum of accomplishing more and more build until all your pictures are organized. While you are sorting, keep the photos in labeled envelopes until you know how many of each you have and what kind of system you will need. There are so many great photo systems out there. When you start to open the box of photos, and this goes for all organizing, and your anxiety starts to kick in, ask yourself why. Why is it overwhelming? Why is it frustrating? If it's overwhelming because of the sheer volume of things to organize or go through, then that's an easy solution. As I just said before, start with a small portion. So for pictures, bring a very small quantity of the pictures to a table or a different area of the house and go through them there in a fresh, clean environment. If there's negative energy and bad memories in the photos, then get rid of those pictures or items. Don't let the negative energy steal your happiness. Life's just too short for that. Living with guilt robs you of present moment. You never know by letting go of the negative memories in the form of pictures, what new and fabulous things may enter into your life. I see that happen all the time. So do not carry that negative energy into the next day. Sometimes I think society, through Instagram, Facebook, or Pinterest, has given us this idea of what our organizing at home should look like. For us to achieve that same look we admire on social media, there's so much pressure to be and have our homes a certain way. Sometimes that's not realistic, or even something that we really want deep down inside. Release the need to follow the Joneses for a happier and more fulfilling life. If accomplishing that Pinterest look is natural and easy for you, then do that for you. You do you, and the rest is just noise. Struggling with organizing is very common, but most of it is mental blocks. So be honest with yourself about why you cannot get your head around it, and be prepared to work through some difficult feelings to get you through the desired outcome. This is why working with somebody is important and beneficial. Somebody who's objective, non-emotional, non-judgmental, and can challenge you to see around your mental blocks. If you're keeping things out of guilt, for example, but space, time, and energy are more important to you, then remember that nobody knowingly wants you to feel guilty. So if you're holding on to things from an elderly or a deceased relative, remember that any guilt you feel from releasing those items are not from that relative. They wouldn't have given you something to have negative emotions for. Most gifts come from love. So you can lovingly pass those items on to maybe another family member who could love them and use them, or put them in the hands of a stranger, either through donation or selling them. That would make that stranger happy. Imagine eliminating negative feelings in the world just by moving objects around to people who will love them. Motivation may also be hard to muster when organizing. I suggest printing a picture of a room that you would like to organize and put it up in that space as a visual reminder of what your end goal is. When you struggle to get started on organizing, look at the picture and remember baby steps will get you to the end goal of organized, while no steps will get you nowhere except for your current state of stress and anxiety with your space. So go tackle a small bit of a bigger project. Think about what you're thinking as you do it, so you can accomplish the task and feel good and proud of yourself. Until next time.
Well, like many residents in the community, city staff will be kicking things into high gear to begin spring cleaning duties. Cleaning on arterial roads has already begun, and residential cleaning will start May 4th, with weather permitting.
You can help by removing anything blocking the roadway, like vehicles, driveway mats, and waste collection carts. In addition to the street sweeping, litter cleanup crews will be out picking up litter and other debris from parks, green spaces, and trails.
Now, COVID-19 has, however, caused the cancellation of the May 9th Clean and Green Riverfest event. For more information about the street cleaning schedule, check out St. Albert's website. Now, being isolated with your spouse can be challenging at the best of times. Here with some advice on how to cope with this is Karen Armstrong.
Hi, Lisa. Today, I would like to reach out to those who may be struggling with some relationship stress right now. And what I want to do is bring awareness in, because you can't change what you're not aware of. So right now, what I see happening a lot is that people are really struggling because the distractors they normally have in life are no longer an option. With isolation, with all of the sports shut down, a lot of the stores, lounges, places to meet friends, all of those things that we used to use to feel better, to distract from the emotions that we've already been feeling, like fear or stress, or maybe not good enough. All of those things that we used to do to make us feel better are no longer an option. So what's happening is when it comes to being at home and being with your partner, the focus is now more so on each other. And when something happens, it is very easy to just focus on that. So say something negative happens and you get angry at your partner. Now, you're no longer seeing that person in full light. You're not seeing who they are in their entirety. It's just focusing on that negative thing that happened. And so what you focus on, you feel. And then what you feel impacts the way you behave. So maybe now you're going to react to them in a negative way. Then what happens is it all gets spun around. And so they're experiencing what you just went through. They too are struggling with emotions that existed prior to the isolation. They too don't have their normal distractors to make them feel better. And so now whatever it was that you did to upset them, they're focusing on. And so now they're focusing on the negative, which impacts how they feel, which then impacts what they do. And so what's happening is it just becomes a vicious cycle of reacting to each other negatively, where in reality, what both sides want is connection, love, and support. So I just wanted to bring this awareness in today. A really good saying is check yourself before you wreck yourself. When your partner does something that really upsets you, or maybe it's even your kids or a friend, take a step back and check if you are already emotionally charged, if you have less tolerance or are more irritable now because of other things that you're having a hard time managing. And either way, just know that reacting and creating negativity in your relationship and fighting is only going to make it worse for both of you. So please bring in compassion, bring in love, and bring in grace. Pick your battles and just manage your emotions and try to be there to support each other during this difficult time. And pretty soon, stores are going to be opening, gyms are going to be opening, and life can resume and everything will be great.
This week and every week, Memory Roth puts a little color into our weeks despite the pandemic, and she talked to Lorraine Schulba on Art in the City.
Hi everyone, I'm coming from my home studio and gallery again this week. I am looking very forward to interviewing local artist Lorraine Schulba. It's been another busy week for me. I've started some new art finally. I'm also in an online gallery show with the Federation of Canadian Artists starting May 12th to the 24th. I've also been invited to participate in a new mural with the Mural Mosaic team. Not only are some St. Albert artists and Edmonton area artists participating, but also artists right across the country and around the world. So this is going to be really exciting. We're going to talk about the Mural Mosaic new mural in a couple weeks. In the meantime, you can follow along by liking their page, Mural Mosaic, Art That Awes and Inspires. You can find that on Facebook.com at Mural Mosaic. So check them out and stay tuned for the interview when we end up doing it in a few weeks. Also, if you want, you can check out the City of St. Albert webpage. They have some information for artists about applying for emergency funding. Other things going on in the community regarding the arts, there's also a resource link. So to get there, go to the City of St. Albert webpage, go to Culture and Tourism, and then along the side, you will find another button and it says Arts and Culture. So click on that. And then you will find another bunch of buttons, but there'll be resources for artists and art groups. So if you click on that, two links will come up. One will be for the emergency funding. So artists, check that out. Maybe there's something that you can apply for to help you out. And then there'll also be a button that says resources. So if you are looking for things that are happening in St. Albert to do with arts, click on that. You will find things like she has her information on there, what's coming up. There's a bunch of other art groups, so check that out. And that will help you know what's going on also. So for those of you who do not know Lorraine Schulba, you may recognize her from the St. Albert Farmers Market or the White Avenue Art Walk, among other art events around the area. Lorraine is a professional contemporary landscape artist who is originally from St. Albert, who lives in Edmonton. So hi Lorraine, how are things going?
All right, how are you?
I'm really good, thanks. How are you managing with all this pandemic stuff?
It's a bit of a wacky world. My dad actually just called today and we were talking about how it's changed a lot. And actually speaking of the farmer's market, he was always there helping me every Saturday for years, and now we're kind of like, it's changed. It's a kind of a spooky world, kind of a scary world, but I think we're all kind of adjusting and finding our way through things, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I know that you've been doing to help people out through this time is you have offered daily classes on your YouTube channel. I know you're not offering them again right now, but you might be again. And you're also starting some weekly online classes where people can sign up for, and of course there's a charge. Can you tell us what type of classes that you're offering?
Sure. So a lot of the times, depending on the project that we're doing, I'll have a following of people that want to learn a certain technique or a certain style, or even some of those those paint night kind of things. So I'm doing a lot of those packages where people can follow along with me, and it's kind of like a being there in person, but not really, and just some way to spend the time. So whether it's in individual classes or group projects, I think we're getting pretty savvy as far as how to connect digitally with everyone. So, all you really need is a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop, and you can, connect with classes and go from there.
Well, that's great. So how would they get a hold of you if they wanted to sign up for a class?
I think the best way right now is just through email or my phone number. And, because right now, the online component, I'm planning out how to do that on my website. So just connect with me and I'll send you a meeting link and then we can discuss details. But it's a great way to spend an evening or time. A lot of us have time actually. Yesterday I was looking for supplies and it's really hard to come across supplies. So that's an option as well.
Boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, for sure, we'll have your links up so people can check them out. But you've been an artist most of your life, and you went to university for your art and design. When did you decide to become a professional artist?
That's a good question. Yeah, I've always been that weird kid in school. All throughout school that loved art. I found a lot of comfort doing art, and I thought, what the heck am I going to do when I get out of all this school? And I came across some catalogs back in the day, and I found, art and design, that's something I could actually do. And what I love about what I do is I have multifaceted things I can offer people. Like I do the painting, and then I do my design I mentioned, and then also my illustration. So, just to be creative is what I love. So I think it's just been a journey all my life to be a creative person.
Well, that's wonderful. So do you have a favorite medium?
It's funny. I used to actually be a very detailed. So if you look at my work, a lot of my work is very whimsical. I have a lot of energy. I love color. But back in the day, I started out with color pencil, and I used to do these high realism color pencil drawings, like tigers or fur, and it was insane. But so then now, 20 years later, I've gotten away from that and just love the energy and joy that you can make with art.
Your art has so much energy, and there's
thank you.
Florals. They're just beautiful. Whenever I've gone down to the farmer's market or I've taken pictures at the art walk on White Ave, you're always there, and I can spot you from a mile away. Your art is just absolutely outstanding. So it's very joyful, very, very joyful. So you've also, you're welcome. You've also won a number of awards for your design and marketing business. Tell us about those.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so these awards, they're like international design competitions, and you compete with all these other firms around the world. It's pretty exciting because, as an artist, that it's a pretty solitary world we live in, and to connect with other firms around the world is pretty exciting and get your work seen across the world. That's awesome. But I'm very passionate, even though it's design and most of the time I'm on the computer or whatnot. Actually, I see design as just another medium for me to be creative, and I love bringing people's, like branding and marketing. I love helping businesses get noticed with good design.
That's great. So you've been super successful at that, and I've seen a number of statues and different things. And so are you going to be continuing with that type of thing besides your art? Like besides the part of your art?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually very grateful that I have all these different. I just see them as extensions of being creative, and I love the variety. And I've been doing this. I used to have a corporate job with design, and then when I started out on my own, I mentioned it's been 17 years now. I wouldn't change anything. Maybe more exercise.
Oh, I hear ya.
Yeah.
So,
Less coffee,
you've
more
also-
exercise.
You've also done some book covers and things like that. Do you ever illustrate the entire book, or have you just done a lot of covers?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. So one of the covers actually just found out won a international competition for my illustration, which was normally I don't submit that stuff, but
Oh,
because
that's
it was
great.
part of the challenge.
Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I
That's
actually
great.
have a yeah. Thanks. But for kids' books, yeah, I do a lot of illustrations. I do like from start to finish. Someone will come to me, an author. I did one for someone in Chicago, and that's cool. Like technology, I work with someone in Chicago. Like that's pretty awesome. And we did a book about dementia, illustrating like her story, and yeah, I've done quite a few kids books actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So this pandemic has really thrown a wrench in everything for everyone, right? And I know most of the artists out there have had things canceled or postponed. What are some of the things that you were planning before this all happened, and how are you dealing with them now?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know what, for me, there was a bit of a grieving process actually, because even though I am pretty, solitary in what I do, I had about 4 shows canceled in the spring here, and like ones that I've been doing for 11 years, 12 years, just helping and being involved with the people involved. Like I was actually quite sad about it, and because I know like the trickle down, like I know all the other vendors and how they've been affected, and so I'm always like a lemons into lemonade kind of person. So I thought, well, what could I do? So I've been working again on my website, doing like a marketplace, and social media is great to connect to, and if you guys have any neighbors and friends, it's always good to just connect and even just sharing your art, because I think a lot of people are struggling. So just being there to help lift people up. I'm just trying everything I can. So.
I know we all appreciate it, Lorraine. You're doing a great job, and I hope you'll continue doing it. And thank you so much for being on TV7.ca with me. And I wish you all the best, and stay healthy, stay creative, and just go with this. That's all we can really do, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks
a lot. Thanks a lot, Lorraine. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, see ya. I'm Emery Roth, and this has been Art in the City on TV7.ca.
What effect will COVID-19 have on selling your home? Dennis Faulkner is back to tell us how to help protect ourselves during this pandemic.
Hi, how can you list your home and protect yourself from the virus? I'm Dennis Faulkner, realtor for RE/MAX Select. I'm an economist, and I also write a column for the Edmonton Journal. Well, let's talk about that issue. Can you protect yourself? Are you at increased risk? Well, the simple answer is if you're allowing people into your home, you naturally are at increased risk. Can we mitigate that risk so that you're comfortable with that depending on your personal situation? So first off, should you list? If you're 65 years of age or older, if you have underlying health conditions, then maybe this is not the right time to list. Or if you do list, maybe finding other accommodations and leaving the home vacant is the answer if you must sell your home. So let's say that you are under the age of 65, you don't have underlying health conditions, and you want to proceed with listing, and you want to know, well, how can I protect myself as much as practical? There's a standard questionnaire that almost every brokerage is using that asks 5 questions to a potential buyer and seller with respect to their travel history, whether they're symptomatic, whether they've been tested for COVID, whether they are associating with anyone who is symptomatic or has been tested to COVID or are awaiting results from COVID testing. So that right away, you want every answer to be a positive affirmation that they are free from any risk factors or infection. So assuming that, how else can we protect ourselves or at least mitigate or minimize the risk? One is to make requirements. You as the seller have every right to either allow or not allow whoever into your home. So make requirements of the buyers that they do their due diligence on your home, that they look at all the pictures, all the descriptions to make sure it is a right fit, that they watch the virtual tour. Perhaps even ask them to do a drive-by. Is the home facing the right way? Is it on a busy road? Is the driveway big enough? Does it have the right color or look from the street? So doing a drive-by, we can actually rule out some buyers whom it may not be a good fit, and then they won't even have entered your home. In addition to that, we can require that the buyers don't touch any surfaces. And it's only that the decision makers are there. So if it's a larger family, we just have the decision makers present rather than 4 or 5 members from the family, especially children who can, run freely around the house touching surfaces. So if we have only the decision makers present, and then the seller, the seller, maybe has all the lights on, has all the doors open, so that there is almost no need to touch any surface. The realtor, most of the realtors that are out there doing showings now carry a disinfectant cloth with them so that if there is a door or a drawer or something that wants opened, they open with that and it gets disinfected simultaneously. So ideally, you would have your buyers walk in, they touch nothing. The realtor, in an ideal situation, would only touch the front door, the key box, and the garage, interior garage door if it was an attached garage. And then when you got home, you could either re-wipe those down or have your listing realtor come and wipe those down in between showings. We could ask that if they are in between showings that the buyers also sanitize their hands between each showing before entering your home so as to not to transfer infection from one home to the other. So there are a number of ways that we can mitigate transmission of the virus and reduce the risk to you and your family. And ways that you can just by putting forth rules to have whoever not enter your home or in a fashion that you want them to enter your home. So should you be on the market? Well, in the first 4 weeks of April, we're sitting at 41% of the volume that we were sitting at compared to last year. So there are still a lot of people buying homes. And there are a lot of virtual buyers out there that are looking and planning to visit the homes when isolation is no longer required. So I would argue that it is a good time to be listed, to be on the market with your hand up, say, hey, I'm for sale. And you'll have the buyers that are currently looking as well as the buyers that are waiting for a time when isolation is no longer required in order to start looking. So in my opinion, it is a good idea to be listed if you don't have higher risk through being above 65 or above 70 and having underlying health conditions or just the underlying health conditions. Thanks for watching. If there's any questions, feel free to email me directly at faulknergroup@shaw.ca. That's faulknergroup@shaw.ca. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Michelle Parker enjoys the sunshine this week with Let's Get Fit.
Welcome back to Let's Get Fit. I know that many of you, and I truly hope that all of you, have been hitting outside to grab some much needed and much deserved fresh air. Perhaps for an evening stroll, maybe a light run or a bike ride, or perhaps some time alone with your family in your own backyard. Alone or with your family, I should say. My apologies there. Picking up on last week's theme, I also know that a number of you have been focusing on getting your lawns and your gardens in tip-top shape. And while last week I shared with you some great conditioning moves for the gardener, gardening unto itself is such a great form of workout and a great stress reliever. So I am wondering, how many of you are incorporating an exercise mentality, or are you just out there about getting it done? For those of you who are spending hours at a time in your gardens ready, consider the following, especially if your exercise habits are more limited during the rest of the year. So if you're going to a gym, would you Commit to spending hours at a time pushing and challenging your body? Would you be doing the same repetitive movement for extended periods of time? And would you normally complete a heavy and lengthy workout at the gym and then skip out on your stretching afterwards? If the answer was no to any of those questions, then I encourage you to consider the same in your garden. Set a timer, say for about 60 minutes for your daily time in the garden, and allow time for your body to be able to rest and recover from your gardening workout. Remember also to mix up your activities while you're out in the garden and break them up into smaller intervals. So for example, you could do 10 minutes of raking, followed by 10 minutes of pruning, and then wrap up your garden workout with some light stretches before you head back inside. So speaking of some stretches, that's what we're going to focus in on today. So I'm going to jump up and show you a few different ones that you could be doing as you're wrapping up your outdoor gardening workout. So one of them is just going to be standing up nice and tall, reaching those fingertips as high as you possibly can. You're going to make your feet about hip width apart, nice and stable for balance. Knees have a small bend to them. And then we're going to bend to sides, so just like your trees, nice and tall, reaching through the side, getting that nice stretch all the way up to your armpit, coming back to center, and then repeating the same on the opposite side. Now take a couple of nice deep breaths in as you bend to the side, and then bring it back up to your center. And you can repeat that movement a couple more times. Now another great one is just going to be for you to now reach down to that earth. You've been enjoying your earth so much today. I'm going to turn sideways so that you can see me a little more here. Still the same position with my feet, hip width apart, slight bend to my knees. I'm going to hinge with the hips as my back remains flat initially. And then I'm going to come down, so I'm reaching my fingertips towards the ground. Now once you're down here, you can play with that knee bend so your fingertips come all the way down to the earth. And one of the reasons why I want you to play with that is so you can feel that deepening of the stretch in your hamstrings. For some of us, when our legs are long, we really can't feel the stretch there. So play around with your knee bend until you feel that stretch to the back of your hamstring to maybe get into your calves as well. All right, and then for a final stretch to consider, we could be looking at basically a cat-cow. So you're going to come all the way down to the ground. You're going to root yourself in that earth that you've been playing around with. And then you're going to drop your belly down towards that ground as your head comes up. And then arch your spine up. Feeling the shoulder blades separate as you push your back up towards that nice sunny sky right there today. And then bringing it back down. And just like I mentioned a moment ago, as you're to be a tree and going side to side and holding for deep breaths, you can do that here as you go from ground to side, working out our back as we arch up and then stretching out our abdominal region as we come down. And again, taking a few deep breaths as you're going through that. So there's a few great stretches for you to be playing around with. Once you round up your gardening for the day, remember, break it into smaller intervals, be nice and kind to your body, don't try and get it all done in one day. From TV7.ca, I am Michelle. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Until the next time, take care.
And once again, that's it. That's all this week. St. Albertans, once again, if you have any community events or news you'd like to share with our viewers, please send us an email at news@tv7.ca. Now, from all of us here at TV7.ca, I'm Paul Huckalak.
And I'm Lisa Rufiange. Please stay safe, be kind, have a great week, and wash your hands.